I, 47, been with my wife for 2 years. She has a 21-year-old son. I have a 14-year-old daughter from my previous marriage. My late wife passed away in 2014. She left a few things for our daughter, including a gold jewelry set. Her mom was devastated she didn't get to gift the set to our daughter on her wedding day. I keep it in my closet since it's expensive and my daughter is too young to have it. I'll hopefully gift it to her on her wedding. Last week, we were sitting in the kitchen when my stepson was hesitant to ask me something. We're in good terms but have our fair share of arguments. He said his fiancée was taking something from his mother's in my closet. Saw the jewelry set and liked it very much. He asked if he could borrow it so his fiancée can wear it at her cousin's wedding. I found this unacceptable. I told him his fiancée had no business being in the bedroom and that the jewelry isn't mine. It's for my daughter. He asked me if my daughter will agree to let him borrow it if he talked to her. I told him not to even talk about it again. He got all pissed and said things I do not remember. Saturday night, when he and his fiancée were at the wedding, I discovered that the jewelry set was gone. I told my wife and we looked all over the house. I called my stepson to tell him about calling the police because I really thought someone stole the set. He said there was no need, that he borrowed it and will return it after they get back from the wedding. I yelled at him and told him to come back with it right then. I kept calling him till 12 a.m. when he told me to stop calling and that he'd bring it in the morning. I couldn't sleep that night. I felt terrible. In the morning he showed up at 10 a.m. He didn't bring it and started stalling, saying he forgot he'd bring it the next day. At this point it was clear he gifted it to his fiancée and was stalling. I got so mad I told him I would be pressing charges if he doesn't return the set today. We got into an argument. My wife said his fiancée was the one who wanted the jewelry set. But he was the one who took it and it's not even mine, it's my daughter's, which made it worse. Because I'm responsible for whatever happens to it. His grandparents berated me after I told them this and got mad and defended him when I said that I will be pressing charges. He stole and needed to be responsible for his actions. He didn't respond to my final call, so now I've given him one last chance and it's over. I pressed charges today. They're saying calling the police was extreme and cruel. They're all convincing me to back down. Am I the idiot for pressing charges? He was replying to me sarcastically when I said I'd get the authorities involved and he didn't take me seriously. His mom said she'd try to talk to him, but I had enough of him stalling, hoping I'll just let it go so he can make his fiancée happy. I feel like an irresponsible idiot. I can't even look at my daughter without feeling frustrated and infuriated. I'm hurt, but what's worse is that this is my daughter's property that I couldn't take care of. My wife allows them into the room, although I told her not to several times. They're not kids and there should be some boundaries. I just needed to mention that we're in Europe. Not the idiot. They stole precious heirlooms from your daughter from her dead mother. Press the charges, tell the police the fiancé's name. Do not back down. As for the grandparents and people opposing you, ask them how they feel if someone stole their dead spouse's thing from you. They're heartless. Update us when you get the jewelry back. In retrospect, the jewelry set should have been in bank safety deposit box. I think you should proceed with the authorities. He thinks he and his mom can pull off this thievery and you will just take it. When you waver in your thinking, remember your deceased wife and your daughter's future and all the meaning and sentiment in that jewelry set. It can't possibly mean as much to the boys, and he is a boy, not a man, fiancé. Not the idiot. You best to recover that jewelry set. Do not trust that young fellow and his fiancée or wife in your home in the future. Not the idiot. Press those charges and when you get the jewelry set back, put it in a deposit box or somewhere safe that only you have access to. Your partner should definitely not have access to it. And also make sure that it is clearly stated that only your daughter has access to it should something happen to you. Your stepson stole and should learn the consequences of his action. I have 2 daughters, Kay, 26, and Layla, 22. As a single mom, I tried my best for both of them. But Layla, while I love her, makes it very hard to do so at times. She's always been attention-seeking, stubborn, and jealous. We did family therapy and individual therapy for years after her dad passed away when she was 9, but something snapped in her. Am I the idiot part? When Kay was 22, Layla 18 at the time, she had a boyfriend, Mick, 20, he seemed nice. Unfortunately, Layla needed all of his attention. It was constant. He'd be over at our house on couch watching a movie with Kay, and Layla had to be right there next to him. When they went out, Layla chucked a fit if they didn't invite her. She messaged him constantly. She even went to his soccer games, skipping work at her job when she hadn't seen him in a while. Sending him pictures of herself, crying when I would ask her to get out Kay's bedroom when they wanted to be alone. I tried to put my foot down when Kay complained. I had a talk with Layla about boundaries and managing jealousy and how maybe we should got back to therapy. She didn't want to listen and she was cold. She started getting more secretive and Mick started withdrawing. It was then I walked in on them on the couch when I got home from work. I'll be real, I was not calm. I screamed, the whole neighborhood could probably hear. I banned him from the house. I threw her clothes at her and told her to get to her room. I called Kay and asked her to come home. Mick must have gotten to her before me. She came home a mess. It was one of the worst days on my life after losing my husband. Honestly, my daughter was devastated and it was my other daughter that did it. Once Kay calmed down, she asked me to take her to my mom's house and I did. When I got back, I went to talk to Layla. She was sobbing, saying I ruined everything. That I hated her, that I was always ruining her life, that they were meant to be together. I held her despite wanting to scream some sense into her. When the dust settled, we talked. She fought any sort of blame, accusing her sister of abusing Mick, of Kay keeping them apart. As gently as possible, I told her that while Mick is awful, what she did is also terrible. She needed to apologize. She refused. That's not even the half of it, but the relationship has been strained for the past few years. Kay has moved on and I am close with Kay and his husband. I'm careful to never talk about Layla and to be respectful of Kay's boundaries. Layla, however, begs for information about Kay, wants me to tell her everything, whines about how it was in the past, how she needs to get over it. I'm kinda. I just told her, what do you expect? You never apologized. What you did was wrong. I love you, but I'm not the one to rebuild this relationship anymore. You're not kids. She didn't like that, and while I feel like I'm respecting Kay's boundaries, even my mom says I need to try harder to reunite them. So am I the idiot? Definitely not the idiot. It's hard to accept that. When your children become adults, they have to sort out their own crap, but that's the reality of life. You did everything you could for Layla. You sound like you're a great mother, but you're absolutely right in that you have to allow her to go through the consequences of her own actions. If you try to get involved, you risk your relationship with both of your daughters. Most time I read these type of stories, the mother chooses to take the offending daughter's side, but you did the exact opposite. I applaud you for that. Stick to your guns and ignore your mother. If Layla continues her behavior, I'd suggest just going low contact with her because she's not worth losing your good relationship with Kay. Not the idiot. Keep that stance. Just because she's your daughter does not mean she can do crap like that and still think everything will be okay. Your daughter needs some serious help. I'm not surprised her sister damn near cut her off. There are certain things you just don't do and she crossed too many lines. If you force them to reunite, your oldest may end up never speaking to you again. Allow your oldest to dictate when they reunite. For context, my ex-wife, 36, and I, 38, separated when our son was 2, he's now 15, and lives mainly with his mom. 2 years after we split, my wife got remarried and had a pair of twin boys shortly after the wedding. The twins are now 10 or 11, I think. I've never really met them. When I pick up my son, I never go in the house, he just comes right out to me. Anyway, over the years my son and I have bonded over our love for anime, food and gaming. I've told him since he was 8 that one day I'll take him to Japan to see all the cool things there, plus he loves Disney because of his mom, so I planned on taking him Disneyland as well to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I asked his mom about taking him when he was 12 because I got promoted and could actually afford to save for it then. She agreed and said it was cool. Fast forward to now. I finally have enough saved to take the 2 of us to Japan for a week and a half. I double check with my ex and she's completely against it, saying she didn't think I'd actually be able to save enough for the trip and thought it was just another one of my dumb dreams. My son is distraught and she's now saying that he can only go if I take the twins as they also like Disney and it's not fair to exclude them. My son has told me they don't even like anime, Japanese food or anything else we enjoy and planned on experiencing over there, so I don't think they'd enjoy most of the trip. We're literally only spending 1 day at Disney. I also can't afford another 2 kids and I'd feel pretty awkward because I don't even know them. When I told my ex this, she said the twins would just be happy to go on a trip because they haven't been on holiday since they were 4 and her husband can't afford to take them abroad because they're both unemployed right now. She then suggested I cut the trip down to 4 days so I save money on the hotel and can then get her twins plane tickets too, but we can't fit everything we want to do in 4 days. I feel like she's being really difficult on purpose. She started crying and guilt-tripping me, calling herself a failure as a mother and saying she couldn't even treat her kids and that they'd never get to do anything nice. It honestly made me feel bad, but I really don't want to take these kids. So my question is, would I be the idiot if I took my son abroad regardless? We have no official custody agreement in place, so I wouldn't be going against anything. Not the idiot for wanting to take your son to Japan without his siblings, but I'm afraid that your plans will now have to be postponed until your son turns 18. If your wife wants her kids to go to Japan, she needs to pony up the money to send them. You're certainly under no obligation to take her kids anywhere. Not the idiot. It's friggin' weird that she even wants you to take her kids on the trip. And she's willing to ruin her son's dream trip to do it. Then the tears. She sounds manipulative as hell. She probably wants a week with no kids. You would, in fact, be the idiot if you let this woman ruin your trip. Not the idiot for wanting to go, but unfortunately you probably can't take him out of the country till he's 18 without her approval. I say stash that money you've got saved and build on it for 3 more years. You'll probably be able to go for several weeks by then. I'm second-generation Jamaican. My parents moved to the United States just before I was born, so I grew up here. My wife and her family are all white. There have never been any issues with any of her family except her Nana. Nana is a massive idiot, hates my guts and always has. In recent years she's started to go a bit senile and has become even more vocal and aggressive towards me. Note. She's still fairly capable, doesn't have full-blown dementia etc., but she's definitely not quite as aware as she used to be. However, I'm almost certain she is more aware than she often acts and uses it as an excuse act however she wants. Nana has fairly regular appointments she goes to for various health things, and in the past I've been the one to take her as I work from home and am often the only one available in the day. I hate it, but my wife said it meant a lot to her etc., so I got over it and got it over with. But as I said, Nana has been getting more and more aggressive towards me, yelling slurs at me, acting repulsed if I touch her etc. Things came to a head last time I took her to an appointment. The doctor called her in, I tried to help her out of her seat, and she screamed at me saying I was trying to steal her purse. Thankfully the doctor knew me and defused the situation. I was left in the waiting room with everyone throwing me disgusted, murderous looks. When I got home I told my wife that I was done taking Nana anywhere. This was a step too far in my opinion. She sympathized and was very apologetic on Nana's behalf, so I figured she was on my side with this. Well, apparently not, as she came to me a few days ago asking me to take Nana to an appointment. I reminded her that I wasn't doing that anymore after what happened last time. She looked stunned and said she thought I was just venting and that I'd be over it by now. I told her no, it was a pretty damn serious thing that happened and I'm not just gonna get over it. She told me I was being heartless, that Nana couldn't help it, and that she couldn't believe I was so unwilling to help a sick old woman. I asked her if she really thought it was fair that I had put up with her screaming slurs at me and trying to get me in trouble in public, but she just kept repeating she can't help it. The argument ended with her calling me selfish and leaving to stay with her parents. Her last words were, if you can't do it for Nana, then you should at least do it for your wife who you're supposed to love and do anything for. She has barely spoken to me since then, this was 2 days ago, and is still staying with her parents. I thought that I was justified in not wanting to take her anymore, but now I'm doubting myself. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I'm personally sick of the excuse she can't help it, she's a sick old woman etc. My partner has a similar older relative who has full-on dementia and is a total piece of crap. Thing is, he's always been a complete idiot, abandoned children, treats wife like crap etc., so his dementia isn't the cause, it just makes it so he has even less control than normal. I think it's telling that none of her actual blood family ever take her to her appointments, and they've dumped it all on you. I bet they're afraid of being embarrassed by an outburst of some sort. She may not be able to help it, but she's acting in an awful way, and you shouldn't have to deal with that. Your wife is totally in the wrong and clearly doesn't understand the position the family are putting you in. Stand your ground and leave Nana to the rest of them. You don't deserve this nonsense. Nana sounds like she's past the point of realizing anything, but OP sure as hell doesn't have to put himself in awkward situations, or even possible dangerous ones, where he's the scary black man assaulting that poor old frail white lady, for her. The doctor was able to defuse it last time. What happens next time, when it happens in the parking lot? I, 31, lost my late husband in 2016. He got sick with cancer during the first year of our marriage. It was absolutely terrible and devastating. I don't want to go into much details because it really hurts to remember those difficult times. My late husband suffered a lot and he didn't ask for much. He just wanted to be able to sleep but he couldn't. I remember when he used to tell me this and it broke me. I did all I could to ease his pain, but I don't think it was enough at all. He was taken from me eventually despite everything. I have a good relationship with my former in-laws and I'm grateful for the support they showed me. I wouldn't have been able to carry on without them. I've been married to my husband for 4 months now. He's a good man. We have our fair share of arguments just like any other couple. He's divorced so this isn't his first serious relationship. Once he moved in with me, he said he wanted to replace all the furniture, even though it was in good condition. He insisted and even though I didn't agree I did it eventually because he'd get into an argument with me and turn his phone off for a few days. Next he suggested that I donate some of my late husband's belongings, saying that I kept too many. This was hard for me to do, but I was able to sort through his belongings and kept a few things. Last month we were talking and he expressed being uncomfortable living at my house. He told me that every time he'd come home feels like coming to someone else's home instead of his. He said that he can't enjoy sitting in the backyard without picturing my late husband there. He said he felt awful about it but couldn't help it. He refused to go to therapy thinking this was just ridiculous. At this point it was clear he was making excuses to get me to move out of the house since he suggested this before we got married. He knew how I felt about selling the house but still brought it up. He then told me about a job opportunity that he didn't want to miss and asked if I was willing to support him by agreeing to sell the house and move out of town. This was sudden so I asked for some time to think about it, but I was surprised to find the house was already put on the market for sale. Even pictures were taken. I was furious. I had a huge argument with him. He said he thought I agreed, but he knew I wanted time to think, but just decided to do what he wanted. He lashed out at me when I asked if this job opportunity really exists, and he said I was being selfish and inconsiderate. Then left and turned his phone off. I have no idea how to deal with this issue, especially since he says that I'm not being supportive and constantly making him feel pressured. Let him go take the job. You keep the house. This is not about his discomfort living in a dead man's house, it's about control. You can tell because he turns his phone off to punish you for having opinions. He is manipulative and mean and does not respect you. You deserve so much better. Not the idiot. Obviously. Huge red flags. He's trying to control you. Every time he asks you to do something you either did it or he punished you. Let him go to this new opportunity. And you need to get to a lawyer. Even if you don't leave him, you need to make sure your assets, meaning the house, are yours and that he cannot sell it out from under you. Not the idiot. Is his name even on the house? If it's in his name only, which I highly doubt since it was your late husband's, there's no way he can legally do this. Let him leave and stay gone, he's jealous of a ghost. How long have you been together? I honestly don't think that you took enough time to grieve your loss and you really need to do that.